Welcome to Everything's Not Black and White with your hosts, Lala and Brian.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We are so grateful to have this amazing couple with us today. We met John and Sherri a couple years ago when we were both a part of the Stephanie Smillman Champions, and I was very honored to be nominated by Brian and win, and John was nominated by Sherri, and he also won. So we love being close to them and friends with them. What we don't love is that we share a cancer journey. And so what we do appreciate is that they're coming to the show because they wrote a great book, a book that we followed because it's very similar to our story. The book called Welcome to the Other Side, Reclaiming Life After Surviving and Caregiving Through the Abyss of Cancer. So everyone, please give a warm ENBW podcast welcome to John and Sherri Snoad. Welcome, y'all.
Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be here and to talk to you guys. We're excited.
It's really an honor. We're very, very grateful for the opportunity.
Well, we're grateful you accepted the invitation.
And we are grateful that we all are here to have this opportunity.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Not only did we share a similar story, we shared similar cancers at the similar facility. So you really have wrote a book about yourself, but when I was reading it, you were writing words for me as well. So your book has been very inspirational to me.
We actually got through the survivorship program, they had a Melissa Etheridge concert for everyone, whether you were in treatment or out of treatment. And that was kind of a big aha moment for us when she sang a final song that she uses for 5K races, and I forget the name of it. There was not a dry eye in the place, and you could tell at that moment, no matter how far removed or in your journey you were, everyone was taken right back to that place. And we thought, there's a story here that we're all kind of walking that same path.
Oh, I love that. And Melissa Etheridge is an amazing artist, so I'm glad that she was able to share a song with you that then inspired you and gave you some creativity to write your story down. But I would love it, Sherri, if you can kind of take us back to the beginning. Like, how did you find out you had cancer, and just kind of take us on that journey a little bit?
Well, I was a school nurse, and it was winter time. I was training for a half marathon that was run in the springtime and developed a cough. And being a school nurse in the winter, it's not unusual to get some sort of cold and cough. And it just wouldn't go away. They finally did an x-ray and I got a call. We actually were at Nothing Bundt Cake in the parking lot, and the doctor called and said, it looks like you've got cancer. We left the parking lot. I've never been to that bakery since. Then the whole journey started. They thought I had lung cancer. They did a biopsy, and we celebrated in the doctor's office because he found out that that was actually an Ohio lung disease, fungus infection, and I was sent off to an infectious disease doctor. I thought I was getting better, but this lung doctor, I don't know, he was sent from above because he called me one day on my lunch and said, I was just thinking about you, even though I'm not seeing you anymore. And he said, I just would like to do a follow-up chest CT on you. He did a chest CT, and instead of one nodule in my lung, I had lymphoma. It turned into a mass of many nodules. So then they did a larger biopsy of my lung, and that is when I got diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Specifically, it was a large non-Hodgkin's lymphomatoid granulomatosis, which was the complicated name of it. It rocked our world for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I remember going through that very same thing. And John, as her husband and caregiver, like, how did you deal with that news?
It was a 4-month process to get this right. We were in and out, and as Sherri said, test after test, bronchoscopies, and then biopsies. And what she said was right. It was a cardiothoracic oncology surgeon who called her back in and said, I just want to take another look at you. And we were sitting at home. It was, I was a teacher and Sherri was a school nurse. We were getting close to the end of the school year. We were actually planning a family trip with our twins to go see their older brother over in Germany because he was stationed in the Army. And the doctor called And Sherri and I have two totally different stories about how this went down. But basically, I handled the phone call. She thinks she handled the phone call, but our sons have verified that it was actually me. This is what cancer does to people. It
Yep.
completely changes their perspective. And I just everything stopped for a moment and everything kind of went into a box for me. Like it was instantaneous, I guess. I like to say I kind of fell back on my skill set of being a planner and an organizer, and I just went into gear. Cancel trip plans, get on the phone with an oncologist, be the squeakiest wheel I could to get in as soon as we could rather than wait for a month, and off we went. And that's what I remember about it, was just kind of going into this instantaneous game planning mode.
You mentioned that a lot in your book, that football played a role in how you kind of addressed how to address this cancer issue. Do you feel like you kind of were like doing a game plan after that point?
That's a good way to put it. I'm also kind of a control freak, so that probably played into it as well. But there's no doubt that it came into play, being able to juggle several things at once, manage the household, manage the appointments, go to work, et cetera, et cetera. It was, I think in a way, it's what kind of saved me from going into a bad place, because I just knew I had to be on my A game.
Mm-hmm.
Sherri, John's talking about some of the stuff he went through emotionally. Let's talk with you about what were some of the mental and physical changes that you experienced through this process?
Interesting being a nurse, and I used to be a nurse. Actually, I was a hospice nurse and a oncology nurse, and then I became a massage therapist and worked on an oncology unit at a hospital. So I did a lot with cancer patients, and I thought, I give a great hug, I'm great with pep talks and help someone dry their tears. But when you're hit with that diagnosis yourself, all that went out the window, and I truly became a patient, and Dr. Google was not a good thing.
Absolutely.
So I really had to learn to stay away from there, and I got into just a dark place for a little bit. And I remember asking the doctor, my first question to him was, is this treatable? And when he said it's not only treatable, it's curable, I said, okay, now I know I can fight. Or it just gave me the inspiration. They were, no matter how bad things got throughout a lot of complications that I had, the doctors and staff, they were always giving me hope, just a glimmer of hope. And that was all I needed to hold on to. I had a lot of complications through infections, my T cells, and attacked themselves, which caused a respiratory arrest. And I even had a colostomy bag, lots of biopsies, spleen removed, just a hot mess. And I ended up finally on a walker, and they had to kind of stop treatments because they said that they didn't think I could handle them. But the one thing that I did have through all that, losing so much control of everything in my world, I still had my mental attitude. And that was something I wore workout clothes. I wanted to see myself as a fighter. I wanted them to see me as a person. If they said I had to walk, I would inpatient treatment. So you had to walk 4 laps a day so you didn't get a heparin shot to keep your blood from clotting. They said walk 4, I'd walk 8. John and I would escape and take the IV pole out, and we'd walk on the campus. We would do dates, we'd order food in, we'd go make a big deal out of the cafeteria, we'd do popcorn for a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just a lot of distractions so that we could make it through. Because some days it was, if I made it through lunchtime, it was okay, I can make it 5 minutes.
That's one of the great things about the James at The Ohio State University, where you and I both had our treatment, is the facilities there. It gives you a lot of options for walking around. They even have a rooftop garden along with the restaurants. And that's really instrumental to not only the patients, but the caregivers as well, to kind of get through a day.
It is just that mental break, that medical environment.
We even did red, white, and boom from the 14th floor terrace.
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
I'm a little jealous. I'm a little jealous of that one.
You have to find a way.
You
Yeah.
have to.
I got to spend time there during the Ohio State Michigan game, and I could see down to C deck, and that's it, but I couldn't see the game. The game was delayed on the TV. So like when Ohio State's at the goal line and they rush it in for a touchdown, I heard the fireworks going off the stadium before it ever happened on the TV. So it kind of ruined the game for me, but we still won that time. Not so much recently, but back then we did.
Yeah.
But I love the approach that you take. You brought humor. You try to have a positive attitude. Now I did read something in there about you gave your colostomy bag a name.
Betty Poop. Yeah,
Betty Poop.
Betty Poop. It was Betty Poop. Oh, that was they had to remove my spleen and they nicked the colon, and so they ended up having to do an emergency surgery, and I woke up with a gift of a colostomy bag. I didn't know I was going to have that, and that was one of my lowest points. But I have to say, those nurses know how to sell a colostomy bag. They gave me a little designer cover, and they were just the kindest people. So I truly respect those nurses and anyone that has a lifelong colostomy bag. What a powerful, strong person they are.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to get rid of mine after a couple months, but her and I had to make peace with each other. So
it's really hard. And John, you talked about a little earlier about just finding distractions where you could, and obviously, trying to find a humor when you could. But like, how did you, or what helped you cope with what was going on with Sherri? I know you said you were trying to keep from going into a dark place, but like, what are some of the things that you did?
Well, I think one is I went to work. I continued to teach as often. I missed a lot of school, but being able to be around my peers and get their support was very helpful. Having to, missing school for a teacher is awful, like it is for a kid, because you fall behind. And so, trying to stay on top of your planning and your grading, even at the hospital, I would stay at the hospital. And so using work to get me through it was helpful. I was still trying to coach football that season. I missed a number of practices and actually missed my first game in my entire 30-some-year-odd coaching career because Sherri was, I think it was the night of the colostomy event that I stayed at the hospital. The OSU, as you said, Brian, the James were incredible. They made it possible for me to use the student facilities, so I was able to, when Sherri would rest or sleep, I could go over and get a workout in just to get out and move physically, to get out of the hospital for a little bit. So I think that helped a lot.
So, I mean, I know you was talking about your kids, and I'm sure you had lots of the coworkers and families and things that people were asking you about. How did you really handle with sharing the news with your family and friends about this journey that you were about to partake on?
Yeah, it was a lot of phone calling, a lot of text messaging. There were some things out there that I wasn't aware of, something called Caring Bridge, where you could notify family through a website and they could post messages, and then Sherri could look at it when she wanted to. I didn't know about any of that stuff. So we took advantage of our parents, and I have a number of siblings, so I let my mom be the informant, which she's very good at. So she got on the phone chain and let all my siblings know, and Sherri's parents as well. And then word got out, and people would be texting constantly to the point where it kind of became overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I know it did for Sherri at one point, when this is probably one of the mistakes that I made as a caregiver. There was a day that I just remember she was home between treatments, and the messages were just flooding in, and she was just beside herself, almost in tears, that she couldn't keep up with it. And so when she slept, I took her phone and I messaged everybody in her address book to contact me, that, we needed to get a control over all the messaging. And well, then they all stopped. So then she got no messages. And that was kind of devastating for her.
It's so hard. It's so hard to navigate because everybody and their brother literally wants to do something, but it does get very overwhelming trying to reply to everyone all the time. I understand that.
He failed to mention to me that he did that. So I was like, nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, you might want to clue her in to what's going on there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest mistake, and of all the things that went on during this time period.
But it was a good-hearted mistake. You were trying to protect at the same time and be a caregiver. So I wouldn't even say it's a mistake. It's just it's just a different way to handle the situation, I guess.
Yeah, and so John, you talked about in the book a little bit becoming a whisperer for Sherri at times when she was experiencing those anxious moments. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it really showed itself that that role really played out even more in recovery than it did during treatment. During treatment, it was very regimented. You knew you were going to be in there Monday through Friday. You knew there was the next 21 days. You knew she would have to go back in for the Neulasta shot, which I know you're familiar with that as well. And
Man.
so you had a schedule, but it was afterwards when they said, okay, you can go home, you're done. And that's when the doubt and the anxiety and the fear really began to show itself for her. And so I had to be that voice that drowned out the negative voices in her head and reassure that we have to deal with what we know. We have to deal with that this hasn't happened, that we worry about so much, and 99.9% of what we worry about doesn't actually ever come to fruition. So let's talk about what the doctors know, and let's just go with that.
Right.
So that was probably, my biggest role. And along the way too, was just supporting Sherri, and as she was trying to find herself again after and get back into life. Those were the biggest takeaways from that time.
Yeah, and I remember doing very similar things with Brian. It's always they were starting to go down into that kind of that abyss that we're talking about, the darkness, and you're like, nope, come back, come on back. I need you to be here with me. Come on, we got this. I'm
Yes.
strong, and I'm a stubborn Southern woman, so I'm never gonna let go of things too easily. He'll tell you that. That's from the arguments. I never let it go, dog with a bone. But I was gonna tell him the same thing. I'm like, look, buddy, we're in this.
Yeah, I often tell, because I mentor new cancer patients with the HOPE program at the James, and one thing I always tell them is just be ready for the mental battle, because with the physical battle, you're like John said, it's regimented, you know what you have to do, but when you go home, then the mental battle really starts to take place. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't think that's enough focus for new cancer patient diagnosis, is getting over that mental hurdle.
Oh, totally agree. And then there's a whole after you're done with treatments, we struggled a little bit and butted heads because I wanted my independence back and
Yeah.
him to not be the caregiver anymore. But so then I'd go, do something brave, independent again, and then the next day I might be huddled into wanting to be that him to be my caregiver again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he walked a thin line at some point.
Yeah, you sound like in the book you had a little bit of trouble knowing when to turn that switch on and off for you.
Yeah.
Both of us really.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment when Sherri was involved in so many different things. She was taking art classes. I can't remember there was a laundry list of activities, and she was just getting frustrated because none of it was going well. And I just finally said, you need to step back and you need to stop. You need to back off and all this stuff. And she just summarily and instantly packed everything up, put it away, and quit everything.
Oh, no.
I just felt awful, but it ended up being a good reset for both of us, really.
Absolutely. I totally understand that. With this book, you both share some very raw, personal, and intimate details about your journey, including your marriage. So when you discussed writing this book, how did you approach the conversation?
With this book, what was important to us with writing it is John kind of said that, like, having cancer for the two of us was like looking through a pair of glasses, but we both had a different perception of what we were seeing.
Yes.
Me from my perspectives, and he might have a totally different perspective of something. So that's why we wanted the book to be a dual narrative, alternating chapters, and we also wanted it to be simple, because I know I had tried to read some self-help books, and they would just, with chemo brain, I would just reread the same page over and over. So we broke it into very small chapters, but we wanted to hit what was relevant. And I think intimacy is very important in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to tackle that one first, because it would be the trickiest and the most difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
Because prior to me getting cancer, we had become empty nesters. Our boys were successfully completing college, on their way, and we just had so much time and started doing things, and just were getting closer, both intimately and just doing things, and we were just having a blast.
Yeah.
And then cancer hit. And we wanted that that relationship back afterwards. But chemo had thrown me into menopause, scars, your body's ravaged, and things just were different. So I wanted that back, and we asked the doctor at one of my appointments. And being lymphoma, I don't think they get this question too often about our sex life, was non-existent. And they had said, well, we've never been really asked that before, and didn't know who to really refer me to. Since then, I do have to say that James does have in their survivorship several lectures that are really good on intimacy, which are phenomenal. And we actually talked to one of them when we wrote the book. But yeah, we were given all kinds of just learn to live with it. A doctor told us it was a referral, and that made me mad because I was going to prove them wrong. So I finally found someone that has been very helpful, a female OBGYN that works with people through menopause and chemo and getting life back together. And a lot of communication between the two of us is really important.
Yeah, and that's another side effect a lot of people don't discuss, is the intimacy side, because we had issues as well, because chemo really does a number on your body, and it makes it tough.
Very, very much so. That your question is really a really good one. If I can kind of build on it, if that's okay.
Of course.
The other part of the book, writing the book, was, well, first of all, when you talk about intimacy, first thing that came to mind was, people we know are going to read this. So, how far do we go? And then we thought, well, if we gloss it over, it's just going to become another book that ignores the problem. So then we decided, well, let's share as deeply as we could get and be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think we achieved that. The other part of this was, we thought that by writing the book, we're just your average people, and we're not famous. We don't have 1 million followers on Facebook and Instagram. And when you get a lot of the books that are bestsellers, they're coming from the talk show celebrities. They're coming from the rock stars, from the movie stars who are going through it, who, good for them, have millions of dollars at their disposal and can pick and choose where they go, where they do their recuperating. And most people don't have that.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, this could be a book from average people that most people can relate to, we thought. Now, along the way, we've discovered that that's exactly why we had to publish our own book, because today's world, they want you to have 1 million followers before they'll take your book into a publishing house. So we learned a lot along the way. We also, we're older, we're in our middle age, maybe getting into the latter part of middle age, and finding out that that's when most people are diagnosed with cancer, is at age 40 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily the hipsters out there, but again, a lot of the books kind of almost glamorize it, and we didn't want to do that either.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So you both should be very proud of yourselves, because I do believe a lot of people are going to get a lot of hope from your story, and to feel like, you know what, they did it. They're regular just like me, so I can do it too. So that's the hope, right?
That's exactly the hope. We are also hope mentors at the James.
Awesome.
And I have to say, John is so much busier than I am as the caregiver. The caregivers are kind of the forgotten heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So this book, it was important to give the caregiver that equal voice.
Totally agree with that. So thank you for doing that for us, John, because that's a big deal. The caregivers really go through a lot.
Yeah, I think early on as a cancer patient, it's not I have cancer, it's we have cancer, because it is such a team deal.
Well,
absolutely.
I always found it interesting, and you guys might be able to relate to this, is that when you were in treatment, oftentimes I would take a walk by myself, or when Sherri was doing her laps on the 16th floor, how many people were alone?
Mm-hmm.
And how important a caregiver is, and to be a presence in people's lives, and not everybody has that either. So, Sherri and I, lucky we have each other. If roles had been reversed, I know she would have been there for me, but caregiving is so important.
It really is. It's a big deal. And so we need more people to understand that and to provide resources for those caregivers for that very reason, for sure.
The other, you actually hit a nerve with that statement, is Sherri kind of touched on it too early on, but I had a coworker who had breast cancer, and I knew she had missed a lot of school, and when she would come back, we'd always chit chat and, "Oh, how are you doing?" But you know what? No one, unless you're in it, you're either the patient or you're a direct caregiver. You really don't know what people are going through.
Mm-mm.
I had no idea what her ordeal was like, and now I have a better picture of how traumatic that can be.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So I appreciate you definitely doing that. So Sherri, we understand you've been doing some big things since you've been in remission. So can you share some of that with us?
Sure. It started out like John had touched on. Then I finished. I was always active prior to being diagnosed, and afterwards, I jumped into so many things: yoga, exercise, art classes, shaman classes, aromatherapy. It went on and on and on and on and on. And I think initially it was as an escape to admitting that I had cancer. I just wanted, no one really told you how to jump into being a survivor. In the book, I put that I felt like I was given a parachute, but not really told how to open it. Because I appreciate my medical team. They saved my life, which was their job. But then you're given congratulations. And I was like, okay, now what? I just thought I'd go back to living how I was before. So I was just putting lots of Band-Aids on myself, not trying to really look at what I went through. So when John had our discussion, I think he gave me the permission I needed to just stop everything I was doing. I reflected on who I was. I finally accepted that I had cancer. I grieved for the old self, and I learned to love and appreciate the new self. And I went full go with things I enjoyed, became a yoga instructor. John and I both are. I got my Reiki certification.
Nice.
And then with hiking, I came across, it's called Project Athena Foundation, and they help people overcome something traumatic in their lives, and men and women can do adventures. So I signed up, and I was able to do a Grand Canyon, rim to rim to rim.
Wow.
And first year, COVID hit, so it got canceled. And John had done the training with me. So the second year, because we were sent on to the next year because of COVID, he went through the training the second time. He said, "You know what? I'm going to do it too." So he did it also.
That's amazing.
And then I did they have a Zion trip, which I did, which is 50 miles over 2 days through Zion National Park. Wow. And I am still doing art classes. I enjoyed that. And now that we're in Florida, I'm on a rowing team.
Oh, wow.
So that has kept me busy, and I'm doing things that I enjoy doing.
That's awesome. Well, when do you sleep though, Sherri? Because that's a busy schedule.
Oh, I find time to sleep. I do like my nap. So yes.
That's one cool thing about cancer that I say it did give me, and I'm probably you as well, is like you learn to appreciate and cherish all those moments after that, because we know full well that we could have not had all these opportunities. I always say life after cancer is like going from standard definition to high definition on your TV. Like you're just seeing things so much clearer than you did before, and you're so appreciative of it.
It absolutely is. I do have to say that I struggled though for a while, and part of writing this book was therapeutic, that I was living in the worst case scenario, catastrophizer mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of appreciating the present moment, I was living in the fear that it could come back because I got it when I was training for a marathon, the best shape of my life. Why won't I get it again?
Yeah.
Or the complications I had when things were going good. My mind focused on that, and it took a lot of work to get past that. And then we moved down here to Florida, because here I wrote a book, and I'm really got my act together. I just spiraled again, and I had to take a step back and think, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here it's because I left Ohio State. Even though I was cleared from treatments, I left my cocoon that I could always call them if I needed them. And it was really kind of relearning to live in that present moment again,
Yeah.
because we don't realize how comfortable we get with our care team, even when we're done with treatment.
Absolutely. I mean, even when we're picking our insurance policy plan this year, we're like, where's our doctors? Are they on the list? We want to make sure we got the right plan because we got so
Exactly.
much admiration for the job they do.
Yes. Yep.
So, John, when you think about the future, what are some of your hopes and dreams?
Well, one of the things that we said right off the bat, I remember Sherri was in the hospital bed after one of the treatments, and we were optimistic, and we just said this has to count for something, and so that's when we started to talk about the book. But the other piece was just to not let the grass grow under our feet. If there's an opportunity to live, let's take advantage of it and let's do that. And we've really tried to make that our mantra. And I had the opportunity that I could retire from teaching in Ohio, and it was kind of a last second thing. And let's go someplace we want to live. All our kids moved away, and no one's coming back to Ohio. So we took that leap, and I'm in a whole different career, completely different from, well, not completely, but almost entirely different. I'm no longer in the classroom. I'm now working for a think tank that teaches teachers, and so we're just looking at opportunities a little bit differently and being willing to take the risk, if you will.
Time feels much shorter after cancer. Like you want to take those opportunities, not let them go to the wayside.
I think too, the other part was just that desire to give back, and we wanted to do even more. Writing the book was cathartic for us, and we didn't go into it with the mindset of making money. That really wasn't the point, but more that we can just help one person or several people. And so we do mentorship for OSU James the Hope, and then the Cancer Hope Network is a separate organization. That's actually where we first started doing mentorship. And Sherri's not kidding. I get called about every other month to take on a new caregiver.
Yeah.
And to kind of walk them through. So that's been very rewarding. But I think there's more out there too that we can do, and I think that's our next step.
I love that. I love that give back heart that you have, and I think that was something that was so attractive to you all, because we all feel that same way. We know that we've been given this new lease on life, and if we can help others to overcome and get through this, that's so important to us. And so we definitely appreciate y'all's heart to be able to do that and to think that way, because it takes a lot of mindset change and heart change for people to go through these kind of really traumatic times.
And you two do some amazing things for people, and you are definitely our inspiration when it comes to that as well.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we appreciate that. So now, Sherri, I know they said too, you are a health coach now. Do you want to share some exciting things about that and how people can get in touch with you?
I am a health coach, and I became a health coach more working with people when they're on the survivor aspect of their journey, because like I said earlier, touched on, it's easy to get trapped in that catastrophic mindset. Everyone's telling you, congratulations, you made it. And you're very grateful you made it. But inside, you may be petrified because it might come back. You might be grieving for who you were, and you don't know how to handle those emotions and how to embrace life and live your fullest life. I would like to just kind of help people as they travel that journey to discover their second chance, so to speak. And they sure fought like heck to get there, and I would like to help them to make the most of it and live the life that they really want to enjoy.
That is awesome. I love that. That's a beautiful thing.
So we had a website that was really tailored towards our textbook. Listen to me, teacher. Towards the book, but with Sherri really diving into the health coaching now, and with both of us doing guides, so we built a website called balancedholisticliving.org. And in there we have a menu like everyone else. And in our book, there are several options in there where people can read about the book, how to order it, what the story is behind it.
Well, that's awesome. We will definitely share that in our liner notes for the podcast.
Is that on Amazon as well, the books? I think that's where I purchased it. You still selling it on there?
It's absolutely on Amazon also.
Okay, so you can find this amazing book at either Amazon or through their website. And like Lau said, it'll be in our footnotes. So just click on the link and take you right there so you can get a copy.
Yeah, well, we are so incredibly grateful for you both that spend some time with us today. And thank you for sharing your story and for writing this book, because it really will help a lot of people get through a very challenging time in their lives. So we appreciate you all so much. Thank you for being with us.
Well, my heart is so full and I'm smiling ear to ear. I just am so grateful for you guys, and thank you for having us on here. I just have loved spending this time with you.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Ditto that. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And Brian, can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with us on our podcast, please?
Absolutely. You can follow us on Facebook, or you can email us at enbwpodcast@gmail.com.
All right. Well, that is our show for today, folks. We appreciate you all joining us. Thanks to the Snoods, and we will see you all next time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.